All right, so I'm Taylor Moylan. I'm going to show you how to do some soldering, simple soldering, with 1/2-inch pipe. I'm going to show you how to solder on a coupling and a 90 in case you need a bend and everything like that. So one thing is you need a pair of cutters, to cut the tubing, the copper tubing. And you want to make sure that you have solder. I use a Silver Bright solder, which is the best you can use. And flux. You can buy the Home Depot flux or Lowe's flux or whatever, but if you go to like a plumbing supply house, Coppermate is the best one to use. So it absorbs the solder a lot better than regular flux from like Home Depot and everything, because there's a lot of water based on those. And I'm using the Home Depot torch just to show that if we want to go buy a really cheap torch, Home Depot sells them. They work. If you want a really good one, Turbo Torch, a lot of plumbing supply houses sell Turbo Torch. That's a really, really good one. A lot of the torches from Home Depot will come with propane. Get rid of the propane. It doesn't heat the copper fast enough. You want to get MAP gas, the yellow bottle. Make sure you have your brushes, sand cloth, and then you're able to solder. And it's really easy. So first thing you need to do is get your pipe, clean the edges of it, just like this. You want to grab it and clean it so that your ends look like this. They're really clean because then the solder is able to take more. So you want to spend some time cleaning the copper. You can wear gloves. It will turn your hands green, if you clean it with bare hands. You just want to clean all the edges on these so that the solder can take. And then what you want to do is clean your fittings. You can use a brush. I like to just use sand cloth. Put your finger in there and then you just clean it. Same thing, you want to clean it just as good as you do the pipes, because if a fitting is dirty, you won't have the solder take in. So you want to make sure you get a good seal if you're doing like water lines or air or anything like that. So once your fittings are clean, you grab your flux. What I do, a lot of people just flux one fitting or a pipe. I do both. So you put flux inside of the fitting and then that's not clean, and then you put flux on the pipe. So it works really well. And then you put the part that you fluxed onto the pipe, and then you flux the other end of the pipe right here and the fitting, and then you connect those. So what we're going to do is I'm going to show you how to solder, make it look nice and everything. So you want to make sure that everything's open underneath, and then when you solder, I always go like this. A lot of people will have it out like this. You're going to have a really hard time soldering and make it clean. What I do is I go about 4 inches and do like a, I don't know, I would give 3 inches on there, so your finger is on the solder and you can position where you want the solder, and it makes a really clean joint. So all right, we're ready. So with this, what I do with the solder is you want to heat up the fitting a little bit and then the pipe, and it gets the flux heated up and everything like that. So, and you don't want to burn it, because if you burn it, it starts to turn a lot of colors. It's hot enough once you see that. So what I do is I start on one end, heat it up, and you push. You want to push the solder into the fitting so it takes really nice. And then you have a perfect solder joint. And then on this one, you want to do the same thing. You push the solder into the pipe, or the fitting, and then what I do is, so you don't have the little berries on the bottom, you swipe it, which is nice. And then you have a clean fitting. So once it cools down, what I do is I put flux on it, so it cleans up the fitting pretty nicely, and it takes all the burn marks off of the pipe. And then you want a rag. I have a rag. Once it's all cooled down, you can test it to make sure that the solder is not hot still, because if you wipe it, it's going to spread the solder all over. It's going to look like a nasty joint. So clean it, and then voila, you have your perfect fitting. Now for the coupling, you want to clean up the other end of the pipe. You already cleaned the coupling, so it's all ready to go. Same thing, flux the coupling, flux the end of the pipe, put the coupling on. And this coupling is not a stop coupling. This stop coupling is if you cut a pipe and you have a solid piece here and a solid piece here, and you can't, move it to get the coupling on. This is a no stop, so it'll go all the way to the pipe. So if I did it on the pipe, I can scoot the coupling up back onto the pipe. So I didn't really want the no slip coupling, but it'll work. So same thing, flex it, put the coupling on, and then position this so that you have an open area to solder. Same thing, heat it up. I always try to go underneath as well because the heat rises, and it works a lot better this way. And then once you see that the pipe is hot enough, you start soldering. Push your solder in, and then wipe at the bottom. And then sometimes you'll see little splats of solder. What I do is I heat up, get my finger real quick, just wipe it off, and it doesn't burn. Same thing here, push the solder in, and then wipe. And then again, wait for it to cool down, get your flux. Don't hit the solder joints yet because it will spread the solder all over again and make an ugly joint. So wait for a second, test it with a rag a little bit. If you don't see anything wiping, then it's all ready to be wiped. So what I do is get the rag, wipe all the flux off, otherwise the pipe will turn green. You want to make sure that all the flux is off so it looks like a pretty, solder joint. And that's it. So this one's all ready. So if this end was ready and this end was ready, already hooked up to your house or water line, it'd be all ready to go. So turn the water on, test it, make sure you don't have leaks. If you do have a leak, get a repair coupling, with the no stop, drain the water out, redo your solder joint, put the coupling on, solder it on, and then you're ready to go. Simple. Soldering is pretty easy. A lot of people mistake it as a really hard thing to do. It's not. You just want to make sure that you have all the right stuff. Sandcloth, the MAP gas, right solder, and clean the pipe, because once you clean it, that's what really makes a good solder joint. And wipe it off so you don't see the green sludge all over, like a week after, because then you'll be like, oh, that's ugly. Just wipe it off clean and good. And that's it. That's really all the solder joints. Next one will be on how to solder on a male adapter. So if you need a hose bib or anything, I'll show you how to do that, because a lot of people, they'll tape the male adapter first and then solder, and then the tape will melt and it won't have a good seal with the hose bib. So thank you for watching. Any questions, write some comments down and I'll answer them the best I can on the next video. And I'm Taylor Moylan. Thanks.